Welcome, everyone, beautiful souls. Do come on camera. Come on camera, because Vi is gonna possibly pick some of you if you're on camera. I think if you're off camera, you can't pick them. I think there's a golden rule, but maybe you can bend the rules. It's up to you.
I
But
thought I would give
welcome.
people the opportunity to put something in the chat.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'll hand it over in a second. It'll be your rules. You'll be in charge of that. So I'm just trying to get more people on camera. I just love seeing their gorgeous faces. So, welcome to the Dragon Thunder Talks. I'm not sure which number this is, but I'm thinking it's like 14 or 15th. But anyway, what does it matter? It's just a number. And we love to talk about dragons, and we love to share all these beautiful guests that have got all their different ideas on dragons. And that's the whole idea of this, is to share dragons to you and see if you resonate with how that person talks to dragons. And if you don't, then fine. Someone else will be along another time and you will resonate with them. And that's the whole point. The dragons wanted this so that people can learn about dragons from the small beginnings when they first met one in a dream, all the way through to they're working with them in a galactic way, and there's millions of them. They're the king of the dragons or queen of the dragons or whatever it is. So our first guest today is Vivyana. We call her Vi for short. Are you happy to be called Vi?
Well, V works.
V? We'll
Yeah,
call you
yeah. I
V then.
usually say Viviana, V for short.
V, that's good. Perfect. So she's a dragon mystic and channels the dragons. And she first met her dragon Ashara. Is it Ashara? Is that how you say it?
That is exactly right.
Yeah. At one sleepless night in the summer in 2023. That sounds like the beginning of a book, doesn't it?
It might be in the book.
Oh, there you go then. And I think, like most of us, after the initial surprise of meeting a dragon and that sort of wears off and you realise that you're not completely mad, she's connected very deeply to that dragon. And then, as many things happen when you first meet a dragon, it is a surprise. And then you meet a dragon and they introduce you to many more. And you've met like hundreds now, haven't you? Which is beautiful. And you're channeling them and writing books and having beautiful oracle cards and the rest of it. And yeah, so I've got your topic today as the wisdom of the Dragon Crystal Guardian Collective. So welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm wonderful. I'm awesome, and I'm very, very excited to be here and to see all of these amazing, beautiful faces. Thank you so much for joining us live and being on camera, everyone who I can actually see. Um, I I would love to start with a very short introduction as to how I connected with my first dragon and how that turned into eventually connecting with over 100 different dragons, and most of them from the Dragon Crystal Guardian Collective. And I would love to share that if you have a question about the Dragon Crystal Guardian Collective, absolutely feel free to put it in the chat, and I will try to keep my eye on the chat as we're going so that I can answer your question. But I wanted to start with how I connected with my first dragon. So it was in last August. So it's been almost a year since I connected with dragons, and so much has happened in this last year. It's amazing and sometimes unbelievable. But although I hadn't connected to dragons, I had been on a spiritual journey for 13 years. I originally started my spiritual journey based on a healing crisis. So in 2009, I had a really bad back injury and I couldn't walk properly and I had lots of nerve dysfunction from the waist down. And after a year of seeing all the Western medicine specialists and doing all the therapy and taking all the drugs, nothing was working to heal. And so one of my friends suggested I see his energy healer, and I was like, I don't really know if that's gonna work for me, because a little bit of backstory before that, I had finished 2 science degrees. So I was very academic and very science minded. And so my friend suggested, why don't you see this energy healer? And I'm like, I don't, okay. I had nothing to lose at that point. I still couldn't walk without a cane because my left leg didn't work and I still couldn't drive and I couldn't sit in the car and I couldn't, like, I was on narcotics for pain and anti-inflammatories. And I was like, okay. So I went to this energy healer and we did this session. And at the end of the session, she was like, just wait, just wait. One of my crystals is telling me that it needs to go home with you. And I was like, okay. So she grabbed one of the crystals that we had worked with on the table and in my session, because when I first walked into her office, I was enamored with the crystals in her therapy room. And they were all over the corners and they were all over the table and her desk. And I was like, oh my God, I used to love crystals as a kid. And she was like, well, pick one. Pick ones that you want to work with. And I was like, okay. So I picked this, the smoky quartz and this clear quartz. And I don't even remember what else because it was so many years ago now. And we worked with those. And at the end of the session, the energy healer, her name is Jan, and she goes back and she grabs the smoky quartz, the first crystal that I had resonated with and picked up. And she said, this is telling me it needs to go home with you. And I was just unbelievably touched because, like, going to all of these Western medicine practitioners, they don't give you stuff other than drugs to, like, go home with. And I was like, you're giving me one of your crystals? I was just so touched. And I slept with it in my hand that night. And the next morning I woke up an intuitive empath, even though I didn't even know that that was what it was called. I could feel other people's emotions. I could feel other people's pain. I knew things that people didn't tell me. So all of my clairsenses had turned on overnight. And the first year was really rough. I didn't really know how to function as an energetically sensitive person. And it took a while, but I think it took me like 6 months to realize that intuitive empath was actually the term for what I had awoken into. And I realized, this is my new normal and I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with this. So I put my science degree learned research skills to use and figured out how to function as an intuitive empath. And Amita's asking which crystal was used. And I usually bring it, but I forgot. It was this little tumbled smoky quartz. And you wouldn't even think anything of it. It's this little clear and brown rock, and like it doesn't look anything special, but that's the really wonderful thing about working with crystals and crystal energy is it's not the looks that matter, it's the energy behind it, right? And kind of like dragons, it's not what they look like, it's their energy that you connect with. So I went on this journey, this spiritual journey that was 13 years long by the time I connected with my first dragon. And I learned how to manage my empathy and my energy sensitivity, and my intuitive senses, exploded a number of times. I call them intuitive awakenings. I had two more after that, one where I connected with my past lives and another where I connected with source energy for the first time. And now we get to dragons, where I feel like my fourth intuitive awakening that took 13 years to get to was connecting with Ashara for the first time, connecting with a dragon. And how that happened was at the beginning of August in 2023, dragons had shown up in my life every day. They were all over my Facebook feed. They were all over real life. Like, I would see them in the clouds. I would see them in patterns in the leaves. I would see them patterns in the floor, like on my tile floors. I was seeing dragons everywhere. And people were emailing me about dragons. And I was like, where's all this dragon stuff coming from? Because I wasn't in any dragon groups. I have no idea how they showed up, other than it was time and the dragons were telling me so. And so after 3 weeks of this, 3 weeks of dragons showing up every day, I finally clued in, scrolling in the middle of the night on Facebook, because, when you can't sleep, what else are you going to do, right? Scrolling on Facebook. So I saw another dragon show up on my Facebook feed. And it finally occurred to me to ask, I wonder if I have a dragon spirit guide who is trying to connect with me. Because at the time, I had guides. I had been talking with my angel guides and my past loved one guides. And so I wasn't unfamiliar. Like I said, I'd been on this spiritual journey for 13 years and I was teaching like how to connect with your guides and intuitive development and empath skills and crystal healing. I was teaching this stuff, right? But I had never connected with a dragon before. And so I asked, I wonder if there's this dragon spirit guide trying to connect with me. And nothing miraculous happened. It was a little bit of a letdown, really. I was expecting this big thing to happen, and nothing happened. But because I was connected with my intuition, I had felt this powerful urge, this powerful intuitive nudge to pick up one of my crystals. Again, crystals are a big thing in my life. And my headboard is full of crystals. And the crystal that I was guided to pick up was one that had been there for probably a year and a half. And it's the same crystal that I wear as a bracelet, one of my crystal healing bracelets. It's called Preseli Bluestone, and this is the actual stone that I picked up. And Preseli Bluestone is a powerful grounding stone. It's also called Stonehenge Stone because the inside ring of Stonehenge is created out of Preseli Bluestone. So I picked up this crystal with my left hand. I picked up the crystal, and that's when the miraculous dragon connection happened. I felt this powerful energy come out of the crystal and go into my hand and up my arm and into my heart, and then from my heart up and down through my head all the way to my feet. Like my body was full of this really powerful energy. And because I was now comfortable with energy and intuition, I knew that this energy was female and I knew it was a powerful spirit guide, but I didn't know anything else about it. And I said, hi. I said hello and introduced myself. And she said to me, she replied, I am the dragon crystal guardian of Preseli Bluestone. And like, I had never connected with the dragon before. And I was like, this is weird. Okay. And the first thing that she said to me, and I wrote it down because with intuition, you don't always remember. And so after this first conversation, I wrote down as much as I could about this interaction. And now I have this big dragon journal that I keep. And this is the first thing that Ashara, that my dragon, she didn't have a name at the time. She says to me, dragons act as crystal guardians. There is a dragon guardian for each type of crystal. And my first thought on that was just disbelief. Like that's a lot of dragons, and that's because there's a lot of crystals in the world. And what I eventually found out was my dragon and I just have a different definition of the word crystal. For me, as a crystal healer, as someone who's been teaching crystal healing and crystal energy for the last 10 years, to me, a crystal is any type of stone or rock or gem or gemstone or mineral that you work with to resonate, to connect with, to work with its crystal energy. But that is not the same definition that this dragon had of crystal. This dragon had a very specific definition of crystal, which is it is a stone that is born of Gaia and has a specific type of energy, and like that crystal energy, it's an identifiable, it's different from other types of energy. And I was like, okay, so that's kind of hard to believe. And she said, it matters not what you believe. And I was like, okay. But I think what happened, because I shared that I didn't believe what she had to share right off the bat, was that she respected my ability to practice discernment. In that I'm not just going to accept every word that somebody tells me, even if they're a dragon spirit guide, even if they're, an ancient dragon from, who's been around way longer than I have. And she decided, because of that interaction and because I invited her to get to know me through my memories, through my energy, through my thoughts and actions, through every I just invited her to get to know me as deep a level as she wanted to. She decided to become my dragon spirit guide, and so she rests within me, which is which sometimes happens with dragons, but not all the time. She rests within me, curled on top of my heart chakra. And it took a little while to figure out a name for her because she didn't have a name when she first connected with me. She was the dragon crystal guardian of Preseli Bluestone, and that was fine for her. And she said, I don't understand your human compulsion to name everything. With dragons, we don't name everything. We recognize each other from our the she said the flavor of our energy, which is basically their energy signature, right? And I was like, yeah, but like I I'm human and I need to name things. And so it took about 3 weeks to figure out a name for her. And we landed on Ashara, which really which really is the way that I interpret the energy of her signature, the energy of her frequency in a sound form. So I knew that there was a lot of ahs in her name, and then I kind of process of elimination figured out some consonants and it turned out to be Ashara. But anyway, that's how I connected with my first dragon, and now she rests within me, and I have this beautiful, I'm so grateful for relationship with this ancient dragon who like basically answers my questions. So if I have a question about anything, and I mean, I am a quintessential seeker. If anything, for someone who thinks about a spiritual seeker, that is me. I want to know how things work. And so we've had conversations all the time, and we've talked about things like crystals and crystals healing, but also about manifestation and about abundance, about grief and death and love and joy. And so it's just wonderful to have, Ashara with me and I can talk to her. But I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions at this point, because now I'm going to move on to connecting with more dragon crystal guardians and how that happened. So, about what I'm going to share with you is once you connect with one dragon, what I have realized happens is you start connecting with lots of other types of dragons as well. And I think, Kev, you can probably attest to that as well, that, yeah, yeah, getting a thumbs up. So what happened, I'm getting a question in the chat. Does Ashara feel there will be a sky event soon to wake us up? Oh, we're already there. Yeah. The reason why dragons are connecting with humanity at this time is because, at least this is what the Dragon Crystal Guardian Collective has told me, is because humans are going through a massive spiritual awakening right now. And so there's a big dragon awakening happening. So more and more people are connecting with dragons because we're at this point in our spiritual evolution where we're ready. We're ready to connect with them, and they are ready to connect with us. And so, yeah, the big event that's happening right now. Getting some more questions. I experience that every crystal has a crystal being. Do you have a connection with those also? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Every crystal that I connect with has its own consciousness. And so I was a little taken aback when this consciousness came out of the crystal and into my hand, because I had always connected with crystal consciousness. But this was totally different. This was a very different signature. And that is kind of what I categorize as dragon energy. So once you've connected with dragon energy, it becomes a lot easier to connect with more and more, which is exactly what happened with me. And I have more questions. Mirai, I hope I pronounced that right, would like a message from the dragons. We're totally gonna get to that. And would any would any crystals you resonate? Okay. Missy is asking, would any crystals you resonate with, dragons are associated with? My favorite stones are alexandrite, labradorite, malachite, and angelite. Well, um, what I have realized is not all crystals have a dragon crystal guardian. And so there are specific types of crystals that dragons that the of the dragon crystal guardians tend to guard, and they are the really gemmy types of a particular crystal. And so, for example, I have connected with dragons that guard alexandrite, labradorite, although he doesn't call it labradorite. Um, it's a very specific type of labradorite called spectralite that I've connected with, and his name is Flash. And his name is, he thinks is kind of ironic, but anyway. Malachite, I have connected with the dragon malachite, and I haven't connected with angelite, but that's gonna happen now. So, so yes, not all crystals have dragons. What I am kind of a little sad about is there are lots of kinds of man-made crystals, like the aura quartzes. From my experience, there won't be a dragon crystal guardian for the aura quartzes because they're not the type, they're not a born from the earth crystal and with a specific type of energy. They they are modified through science and technology, right? And so I used to be, okay, so gonna come clean. I used to be a crystal snob and I used to be all about just the natural crystals. But eventually I realized that, even if we modify crystals, then their energy changes. That energy is still something that we can work with. And so now I do work with the aura quartzes. But anyway, I'm getting a question. How did you get well? Was it the energy healing? Actually, I realized that what was keeping me unwell was repressing a very large part of who I was. And so I couldn't get well until I acknowledged and I actually nurtured that part of me, which was my intuition. I had shut off my intuition for 15 years and because of a really traumatic event as a teenager and had to go to university and had to function and had to be a human being in society and after 15 years of repressing that really large part of who I am, it turned into great illness. I had migraines 5 days out of 7. I had this back injury that wouldn't heal. I got every sickness that ever came through. I was just a really sick and unhealthy person. And how I got better was nurturing my intuition and pursuing my spiritual and intuitive journey and progressing along that. It was denying my soul purpose was what was making me sick. And so what I realized is I have to fulfill my soul purpose, which is as a seeker, as a spiritual seeker, as like figuring out how the universe works. And what I realized is connecting with dragons is a really cool shortcut to figuring out spiritual evolution. Because once you have that connection to this ancient being who is willing to connect with you and teach you and share their wisdom with you, your spiritual evolution is so much faster. And so that's what is happening now. But yeah, it took some time to get better, but I did eventually get better. Okay, so how I connected with more dragons. So after I connected with Ashara, there was another dragon presence who came through for me, and I didn't know anything about him. I just knew that there was a male dragon who was kind of in the periphery of my consciousness, and he hung out there for a good 2 weeks. And when I first realized he was there, I invited him to get to know me in whatever way worked best for him. I gave him access to my thoughts and memories and emotions and actions. And I said, "You're welcome to hang out for as long as you want. And when you're ready to connect, I'll be happy to connect." And after 2 weeks, he hadn't really gotten any closer to connecting with me, but I was, riding my motorcycle on this beautiful road where I live in British Columbia, Canada. And he really loved the motorcycling. He thought, this is so cool. And because I find so much joy in motorcycling, what I realized from this connection was dragons really do love to experience your joy with you. And so here I am riding my motorcycle joyfully, and this, new dragon presence comes into my consciousness and it's like, "Hi, what are you doing? This is so much fun." And I'm like, you know, half my concentration's on motorcycling and half is on this dragon, and I'm like, "Okay, universe, I need your help to make sure that my my riding stays safe." Because I don't know if any of you motorcycle, but if you do, you realize like it is a 90 to 100% attention type of activity, and you need to be concentrating on what you're doing. But anyway, um, I Maria rides a motorcycle too and your dragon is with you. Awesome. Yes. When I ride my motorcycle, I now have a bunch of dragons who come with me. It's super fun. But anyway, so then we got to talking, and this dragon told me that he is the dragon crystal guardian of androdite garnet in Japan, which is a very specific type of iridescent deep red garnet. Anyway, so we have this conversation, and he wanted me to ride faster, and I'm like, no. I'm a ride the speed limit type of motorcycle rider, so you are welcome to come with me, but I am riding the speed that I am comfortable with. But anyway, so I learned a bunch of stuff about Gar. We named him Gar. Not a very original name, but there's a thing about how the dragon crystal guardians choose their names. There's a number of ways that they choose them. And I think a couple of nights after Gar connected with me, I was laying in bed. I woke up in the middle of the night, which happens a lot with intuitive people. It's when your mind is the most quiet and your intuition is the most, you're receptive to it. And so I'm lying in bed, and I felt this extremely powerful dragon presence and dragon energy connect with me. And they told me they were the Dragon Crystal Guardian Collective. And at that point, I had only connected with Ashara and Gar. And the collective told me that I was to be their emissary. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And they're like, more will come. And I was like, okay, well, that's very Field of Dreams. What do you mean by more will come? And they just said, more will come. And what happened was more dragons came. So after I connected with the Dragon Crystal Guardian Collective, the Dragon Crystal Guardian of Amethyst connected with me, and then of Citrine, and then of a whole bunch of other dragons, blue and crystals, blue kyanite, green kyanite, black kyanite. Like all of these dragons started coming in, and they would come in usually in the middle of the night. I woke up a lot at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning with these new dragon connections. And I started just talking with them and journaling. So like I said, I have this dragon journal, and every time new information came through, I would write it all down. And so I started this dragon journal, and what happened was I started getting more and more information from these dragons the more I connected with them. So they would come in like one dragon at a time, or 2 dragons at a time, or 3 or 4. Eventually it came into like 6 dragons at a time, and I'm like, okay, that's enough. Like 6 dragons at a time that's enough. But so I started channeling the same type of information for each of these dragons. And the type of information was their crystal, for one. And I would usually, the first layer of information of connecting with a dragon, I call it the superficial level. And with that information, their crystal comes in, their gender, and sometimes where they are in the world. and so where they're located, their origin. And sometimes their relative age would come through. And so dragons to me have relative ages. They kind of fit into a few categories. There's the mid-20s dragon who is kind of young. There's the mid-30s dragon who is just shy of maturity. There's the mature dragon and the ancient dragon. So there I have relative ages. And sometimes their appearance will come through, personality traits, their dragon energy archetypes. So after I'd connected with about 30 dragons from the Dragon Crystal Guardian Collective, I realized that there were flavors, for lack of a better word. And it's actually the word that Ashara uses for like an energy frequency. And these I call the dragon energy archetypes. And there are 8 of them, and 4 of them represent the elements, and 4 of them represent a purpose. And I'm happy to talk more about that if you're interested. But each of these dragons, I kind of would ask them, because we would have a conversation, right? And I would ask them, do you have a message that you want to share with humanity? Is there something that, you would like to share with humanity to help us further our spiritual evolution at this time? And so I have a message from each of the Dragon Crystal Guardians that I've connected with that they want to share with humanity. And of course, I also channel their name, which is kind of a fun process to figure out for some of them. And there's kind of different ways that that happens. So at this point, I have connected with 64 Dragon Crystal Guardians on a deep level rather than the superficial level, which is just their gender and their crystal and some of the little pieces of information. So on a deep level, I have all of their information, their crystal, their name, their origin, their age, their appearance, personality, dragon energy archetype, and their message. So I have 64 of those, and I have another 20 some odd that are kind of in the superficial stage that, we'll go back to and reconnect with. And then in about January, I realized I really need to write a book about this dragon wisdom. And so I started writing the book in January, and then my dragon life kind of took off and started. I let go of a business that I was working on, and I started another business just sharing dragon stuff, information, wisdom, knowledge, connection, dragon guidance readings, that sort of thing. And I've been organizing summits, and so right now is when I'm kind of taking a deeper dive into writing the book. And as of right now, August 4th, 2024, I've finished 15 dragon chapters. And what I've realized in writing is there's actually a third level of connecting with my dragons and the Dragon Crystal Guardians, and that's the deeper layers of their wisdom. Because most of the wisdom that they have to share is really laconic, actually. Dragons are beings of few words, for me anyway, in terms of messages. And so I would love to share some dragon messages with you, if that works for everybody. I'm just going to go back into the chat and see if there are any comments or things to share. So Kate said, same with mountain biking. Yeah, exactly. I have connected with new dragons and have had really lengthy conversation with dragons on my mountain bike. Yeah, exactly. I mountain bike and I motorcycle. And yeah, it's when I find connecting with dragons is easiest when your rational mind, when your thinking mind kind of turns off and you're more in your body and what you are doing, when you are more present. And so mountain biking and motorcycling require you to be as present as you possibly can. And that is when I find dragons connect with you. I meet them riding the horse. Yeah. So Kev, do you find the same thing that when you're riding your horses, your thinking mind turns off and you are just in the present and you're in the present moment and you don't really have this logical mind kind of cluttering up your thoughts.
Yeah, it's sort of like a meditative state, isn't it? You're not thinking about tomorrow or anything, or what's happening. You're just there fully. It's like on a motorbike, you've got to be fully there because anything could happen. Same on a horse, anything could spook the horse, so you're fully awake. And it's just you're in that moment, and then the dragon sort of can pop in. Yeah, definitely. And it's because you're in nature as well. I find nature definitely connects you to the dragons really easily.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I find the exact same thing. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going through. There's a question from Lori. Thank you, Lori. I think you said there are 8 dragon energy archetypes, 4 elemental and 4 specific purpose types. Can you talk more about the 4 specific purpose dragon types? Yes, I can. So for me, the types of energies that I connect with the dragons, I call dragon energy archetypes. And there are 8 of them. And coincidentally, which is probably not coincidentally, it's probably just incredibly synchronistically, is that the 8 energy archetypes correspond to 8 of our major chakras. So I know that most people think of the 7 major chakras, and for me, I divide the heart chakra into 2. There's the heart chakra, which for me is green, and it has to do with healing. And then there's the higher heart chakra for me, which is pink, and it is usually associated with the thymus. And for me, the higher heart chakra is all things related to love and relationships. So the the 8 dragon energy archetypes are grounding, and it relates to the element of earth and the root chakra. For me, there's the flowing dragon energy archetype, and it represents the element of water and the sacral chakra. There's the warrior dragon energy archetype, and it represents the element of fire and the solar plexus chakra. There is the first of the purpose dragon energy archetypes, and that is healing, and it self-explanatory. It has to do with all things healing, not just the physical body, but the mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies as well. And that has to deal with the heart chakra. There's the heart dragon energy archetype, and it has to do with all things related to love, which dragons are generally really, uh, it love is a very powerful tenet for them. One of many. Another is honor. But anyway, the heart chakra for me is related to the higher heart chakra. Oh, I don't know if I said that right. So the heart dragon energy archetype is related to the higher heart chakra. Then there's the freedom archetype, which has to do with the element of air and the throat chakra. And then there is the dragon energy archetype of wisdom or wise. And there are 2 flavors to the wise archetype, and that is intuitive, which is the feminine aspect of wisdom, and there's intellectual, which is the male aspect of wisdom. And that has to do with the third eye chakra. And then the last dragon energy archetype is cosmic, and it is, not surprisingly, our connection to the universe, to source, and it is related to the crown chakra. So hopefully that answered your question in not too long. Yes, please, dragon wisdom. Okay. Well, all that information is going to be in my book, but I thought I would share that as quickly as I could. Sandy is asking, can you say the names of the levels of your connections again? Superficial, then. So the superficial connection is the very first time I connect with a dragon, and from that connection I will get a crystal, usually a gender, and sometimes some of their dragon energy archetypes, and more will evolve with the deeper level. Then there's the deeper connection, where I get a name and appearance and personality and a message for humanity, an age, that sort of information. And then the deeper level is like, I'm calling it the book level, like the wisdom level. And that has to do with connecting with them on a much deeper level and determining the layers of their wisdom, because I'll share with you some of the wisdom that they share. And it'll be, for example, let's just share, let's share Ashara's message to humanity right now, which is respect your body always. And the reason why she shared that was because I was having a very human kind of moment about having this dragon with me all of the time. And there are certain things you don't want to share with as a physical being with spiritual beings. And she said to me, respect your body always, and never be, basically the message was never be ashamed of what you like, what your body needs. And I was like, oh, that's lovely. So that's actually the message that we're going to share in the book for her, even though I probably have enough wisdom for another book of just wisdom from Ashara. But anyway, that's what she wanted to share. And there's like Gar's message is enjoy the flight. And there's deeper layers to that about enjoying life and being in the present moment and not worrying and not being stressed. And so that's kind of the book level of connecting with them. It's going deeper to the, you know, the profoundness of the message, the different layers that their messages share with humanity. Okay. Oh boy, that's a lot. That's a lot of comments now. Okay. Because we have about 15 or so minutes to my hour of our Dragon Thunder talk, I would love to share specific dragons and specific messages with the people that are here and joining us live. Does that sound good with you, Kev? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, wonderful. Gar said what? Okay, Missy, I am going to share with you Gar's message, which is, I just mentioned it, but I will actually share, I'm going to share what I wrote for his like deeper message. So Gar, just so we are all on the same page, is the Dragon Crystal Guardian of Androdite Garnet in Japan. And he is a mid-20-ish dragon, so he is actually kind of young for the dragons that I've connected with. And he is red with an iridescent shimmer to him. And I told you when I connected with him that he was really tentative at first, and he was in my, you know, consciousness presence for about 2 weeks before he actually spoke to me. And his dragon energy archetypes are freedom and grounding. And so he represents a really beautiful balance of air and earth. And his message is enjoy the flight. And I'm just going, because I have not memorized my book, I'm writing it. I'm going to share with you the deeper wisdom of Gar's message that I'm writing. And I wrote, Gar's message, enjoy the flight, serves as a reminder to embrace the journey that is our life. In encouraging us to enjoy every moment, he gently nudges us to not take life too seriously. Gar's wisdom lies in his invitation to savor each experience, whether it is a moment of joy or a challenge to overcome. By embracing this message, we learn to appreciate the beauty in the ordinary, finding joy in the everyday moments that make up our lives. Gar's guidance urges us to adopt a lightheartedness and playful approach to life, finding humor and delight in the twists and turns of our journey. So that is the wisdom, the deeper wisdom behind Gar's message. And now, I don't know, how do you want to do this, Kev? Do you think, do we want to invite people to come on camera? Like maybe raise their hand if they want to be on camera, and I will share messages with them first.
Sounds
Okay.
good, yeah. Raise your
Okay.
hand, and then you pick who you feel that you
Can
want to chat.
can you raise your hand in the Zoom function so that there's kind of a row for me to see? Because, okay, wonderful. I'm going to go through as many as I can. I'm going to share with you the basic information for the dragon and the message that they have to share. So, Debbie what I would love for you to do is choose an intention, and you can share what your intention is or not. And I would like you to, when you choose that intention, intuitively choose a number between 1 and 64 that will, as a dragon message, to answer that intention. Does that make sense? You you don't have to share your intention, you just have to share your number. So what is the number that you would like to choose between 1 and 64? You can go off mute or you can put it in the chat, whichever one.
5.
5. Okay. 5 is the dragon crystal guardian of blue kyanite, and her name is Pia. And she is from Thailand. She is a mid-30ish dragon, and she is a mix of light and blue, light and dark blue. She has an extremely peaceful, restful, and calm, grounded energy. And her dragon energy archetype is grounding. Just so you know, the dragons that I've connected with, that will be in the book, have a range of 1 to 5 dragon energy archetypes. So Pia's is grounding, and her message is be calm. And it might be 2 words, but there is an entire paragraph that goes with that in the book about choosing calmness and finding calmness in one's life and being mindful. Okay, that is your message. Let's move on so we can get as many as we can. Thank you, Debbie. Okay, Jorge, hopefully I got your name pronounced right. Can you hold an intention and share with me a number between 1 and 64?
6.
6? Okay, 6 is the
Yes.
dragon crystal guardian of green kyanite, and her name is Ivy, and she is from India, and she, like, where her green kyanite crystal is India. She is a mid-30ish dragon, and she is dark green with sparkling mid-green eyes. And she is very gentle and kind but firm, with a grounding and deeply healing energy. And as an aside, she is also the dragon most with the biggest affinity to plants. And so she chose her name Ivy because of the beauty of that plant. But anyway, she has a great affinity for plants. Her dragon energy archetypes are grounding and healing, and her message is be patient. So something that she shared with me is that she finds humans to be very hasty, and it really reminded me a lot of Treebeard from Lord of the Rings. That's the kind of energy she has. She's very deep and wise and connected with plants, and she said humans are such hasty creatures. You would do well with more patience. And so that's the message that she wants to share with humanity, is be patient. Okay. Does that work for you? Does that resonate with your intention?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay. Juliana,
Yes.
please hold an intention and choose a number between 1 and 64 that resonates with you based on that intention.
Let's see here. Good.
Do you have a number?
Yeah, it's 55 plus 3. I can't find the chat.
Okay.
Here we go.
So,
You can
do you
hear
want the
me.
number?
Thank you.
Do you want the number 55 or do you
58
want the
is
number
my number.
58?
No, 58. Thank you.
58. Okay. And for everyone else who has their hands raised, can you please have your intention and your number for me so we can move on as fast as we can? Okay, 58. 58. I have to scroll. I have a very extensive Excel spreadsheet with all of this information. Oh, beautiful. Okay. 58 is the dragon crystal guardian of Aroha. And if you are not familiar with Aroha, it is a very sacred stone out of New Zealand. It's pink and purple. And her name, she is one of the 3 dragons in my book, in the oracle deck that I'm creating, that chose the same name as her crystal. So her name is also Aroha. Aroha means love in Maori, which is the native language of New Zealand. She is a late 20ish dragon. She is pink and purple with a smooth blending of the colors between the pinks and the purple. She is a deeply loving, kind, nurturing, and sneakily cunning dragon. So she's a bit of a trickster, and she is very heart-centered. And her dragon energy archetypes, in order of prominence, are heart, healing, flowing, grounding, and warrior. So something that is interesting about my dragons, as I've connected with 4 dragons now from New Zealand, also known as Aotearoa, and these dragons from New Zealand have the most complex dragon energy archetypes. They all have 5 dragon energy archetypes, and most of the other dragons I've connected with have 1, 2, or 3, but these dragons have 5, so they're very complex. And the message that she has to share with humanity is heal your heart to know joy. And so she is sharing that we need to heal ourselves, and we need to heal that which we need to heal our capacity to love in order to find joy in life.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Moving.
wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Clifford, you are next. Please hold your intention and share with me your number between 1 and 64. If you're on mute, I didn't hear it.
16.
Oh, 16. Wonderful. Okay. I saw it in the chat just after you, you said it. Okay, 16. Oh, cool. 16 is Mina. She's the Dragon Crystal Guardian of Diamond, and she lives in Canada. So she's one of my country dragons. Anyway, she looks a lot like Diamond. She is shining white with iridescent scales, but she's actually kind of a small and nimble dragon compared to some of the other dragons that I've connected with. And she loves to fly. She is very playful. She is a fast, nimble flyer, and she's quite feisty. So that fire energy kind of comes through for her in her feistiness. But her dragon energy archetype is not warrior, actually, and it's not fire, it's freedom. Mina's dragon energy archetype is representative of air. And I think I might have to change her dragon energy archetype, because her message is shine bright from the fire within. And so the message that she wants to share with humanity is that you are beautiful just the way you are, and all of that, your courage and your strength and your energy comes from within, and you need to shine bright from within. Does that make sense? She's very solar plexus kind of chakra energy as well. Yeah.
Completely.
Okay. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to Stephen. Okay. Stephen, let me see if... Okay, you chose 34. Okay. I saw it in the chat. Let's share your message and your dragon. Okay. 34 is the Dragon Crystal Guardian of Jet. I don't know if you're familiar with Jet. It's a very shiny black, generally shiny, black stone, and it is actually petrified tree. But so his name is Shadow, and he also has kind of an ironic name because he's black and chose his name as Shadow. Anyway, he is from Russia, and he is a mid-20ish dragon, and he is the dragon himself. He is black, but he is so shiny that he is reflective of light, and he is reminiscent of a faceted gem. So if you ever see Jet as a crystal, it's usually polished to a very high shine, and that's what a shadow looks like. And as I have written, his name is meant to be ironic because he's black and, shadow. Anyway, he's very kind, but he has quite a feminine energy to him with a fun-loving sense of humor. So he's actually quite funny for a dragon. Not all of them are. Some of them are very serious. Shadow can be serious if warranted, but mostly finds the humor in life. He knows he's quite beautiful and enjoys the fact that he is. Anyway, his dragon energy archetype is freedom, so representing air, and grounding, representing earth. And the message that he has to share with humanity is let go of the burdens of your heart. And so this has to do with his representation of the energy, or the element of air, and how instead of being heavy and brought down, which he can do because his energy is also grounding, is to let go of what no longer serves us, and to let go of the pain in our heart in order to find joy. There are quite a few dragons who have messages about letting go and finding joy. So that is what Shadow has to share. Does that resonate with the intention that you had?
Yeah, actually, and explains a lot about the shadow dragon I have for my as a connection when I was starting to learn and get set up. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, moving on to Evita. Evita, did you share your number in the chat?
No,
I
not
don't
yet,
see
but
it.
I would like 27.
27. Okay. I love this, by the way. This makes me so happy to share dragon messages with people. Okay. 27 is Mal.
Which Anita do you because
Okay, I'm just going to keep going. And
okay.
can you help me mute, Kev? The background noise. So 27 is the dragon crystal guardian of Malachite, and his name is Mal. And he chose his name because after 27 dragons, he realized that there was this pattern of dragons who chose their name based on the letters in their crystal. And so he's like, why wouldn't I choose? Why wouldn't I be Mal? Like, why wouldn't I? Exactly. And so he is from Africa in the Congo, and he is a mature dragon. And he is a mid and dark green dragon with copper specks in his scales and copper eyes. So very reminiscent of Malachite, right? And he is a heart-centered dragon. So most of the people here are choosing the very heart-centered dragons as opposed to the warrior and fire energy dragons, just so you know. Because not all of them are like this. Anyway, he is a heart-centered dragon, and he is fiercely loving and protective. He has a beautiful sense of humor. Hence, like, he was really quite happy to share with me, like, Mal is my name. Like, he thought that was really great. Anyway, he's quite modern in his thought patterns for a dragon, and he is very masculine, but not of the macho type of masculinity. He is a representation of divine masculine energy. And just so you know, there is a partner for him. They're not actually partners. I'm gonna stay on that topic. There is a divine feminine dragon who is teal, and she is the dragon crystal guardian of Chrysocolla. So teal and Mal aren't actually mates or partners, but there is a divine feminine dragon and there's a divine masculine dragon. And so when they come up in readings, it usually has to do with that divine masculine or feminine energy. Anyway, Mal's dragon energy archetypes are heart and healing. And his message to humanity is remember to laugh. And so he thinks that laughter is very healing for our hearts. And therefore, he is about, finding pleasure in laughter and finding healing in laughter. And so that is what Mal had to share. Okay. Hopefully Hopefully that resonates with the intention that you had, Evita.
Cool.
Quite very well. It also suits the situation I'm in to a T. So thanks, Mel.
Okay. Kev,
think-
do we want to close off and move
Yeah,
on to Katara?
I think we need to close off. I think if you want to connect, let me put your website in, and then people can connect with you. And obviously, all this information will be available in your book that's coming out.
Yes.
And
Okay.
do you do private sessions with people if people wanted to have a session with you?
Yes. So I will share that you can connect with me through my website at thedragonmystic.com. And you can also connect with me on Facebook in the show notes. So on the webpage for Dragon Thunder Talks, and I assume on YouTube where it's going to show up, there you can see my Facebook
Yeah, I've just
profile
posted
as
it
well.
in the comments as well for people so they can see
Yeah.
it.
I currently offer Dragon Connection coaching and Dragon guidance readings for people based on the deck and that I am sharing. And if you want to follow along as I write the Dragon Wisdom book, absolutely, please sign up to my email list, which you can do through my website at thedragonmystic.com. And I am sharing emails every week about the progress of my book and lots of sneak peeks of the wisdom that is coming through with them. And thank you, Kevin, for allowing me to share some of my dragon wisdom. And thank you, everyone who joined on the call today for and asking questions and allowing me to share the Dragon Crystal Guardian Collective with you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. So please don't all rush off. We've got our next speaker, and yeah. So thank you very much for that, V. That was beautiful. And every time I hear about the dragons, I had a session with you, and it's really truly connected me to my crystals now. And every time I look at them, I think, oh, I wonder what dragons in this one. So that's beautiful. Thank you very much. Let's send lots of love. Let's press those reaction buttons and send lots and lots of love. And to the dragons for coming in so strong and sharing such wisdom to us all. Beautiful.